Hey everybody, I'm doing 2 episodes today of I Just Clocked Off. So this is the lunchtime special edition. First clock off of the day, is if you will. I'm going to start off talking about the Colorado Avalanche season opener from last night. As you can see, I'm rocking the Avs hoodie today. There's a lot to feel good about from that game. I thought they played really, really well. The first period was sloppy for both teams, which is kind of understandable. It's the first period of the first game. After that, the Avs cleaned it up, and LA really never did. The Kings just looked overwhelmed throughout the entire game. I thought they looked kind of predictable. They tried to do this cross ice pass as they entered the offensive zone a handful of times, and it got picked off. I think that Cale Makar picked off that pass a couple of times, and just everybody on the ice kind of got aware of that. And then, they tried to come back in the second and third periods. Obviously, they ended up scoring on a power play, but in even strength, they would pass the puck around, they'd create some space, and then, either they would, miss the net or a shot would be blocked. But they just couldn't cash in on those chances, which were, pretty few and far between. So you can't have, a lack of chances and a lack of execution. Obviously, that's not going to get the job done. Focusing on the Avs a little bit more, I thought, just kind of calling out some players and some things about the team that I think are notable. I thought Marty Necas was really good, obviously. Those 2 goals that he scored were really nice. Other than those 2 goals, he seemed a little bit out of control with the puck. He was kind of loosey-goosey going through the zone. Seemed like he wanted to carry the puck in. There were a couple of plays where he was, side by side with McKinnon coming through the neutral zone, and Necas was like, "Oh, I'm going to take it." And it's like, that's kind of his job. The guy who's won the MVP before, you kind of leave that to him. So it was a little bit strange in that regard, but the 2 goals he scored were really nice, and those are exactly the kind of plays they need him to make, to fill that role on the top line and on the power play. It was really good to see the Avs score a power play goal, but they were only 1 for 6 for the game, so that's still a little bit of a concern. That was obviously a big problem during the playoff series last year. It was a big problem for Necas in particular on the power play. So again, good to see him get a couple goals on the board. I thought all 4 lines of forwards really did their jobs. Like I said, Necas was a little bit sloppy in a couple areas. He had some weird plays going through the neutral zone, but he scored goals, which is what he needs to do. I thought the second line with Nichushkin and Landeskog and Brock Nelson was really good. The fourth line was out there for the goal that Sam Malinsky scored from the point. He got a nice screen down in front. And, the defensive setup for this team is a little weird. They're playing Malinsky primarily on the left point next to Josh Manson. They moved him around a little bit, but he looked good. He had a couple questionable plays on defense, but similar to what I was saying with Necas, you score a goal that erases a lot of things you did wrong. And it was a nice goal. You just walked in easy peasy from the point. He was able to walk into the middle and then just fire off that quick snapshot that he has. And just found its way in like it very often seems to do. So that was a really good sign. And if they can keep him on the left point, they're going to rotate him around. Obviously, they're going to rotate Keaton Middleton into the lineup a little bit. But if he can make that work on the left point, that's a big deal, because that's this team has some cap space to work with. But if you have an obvious need, obviously, the other teams are going to try to squeeze you for that if they felt like they had to trade for a left shot D, which there's a good chance they still will. But, if Malinsky can keep playing well on the left side, that gives us a lot of flexibility. And frankly, I hadn't thought about this going into the game, but they talked about it on the broadcast. They mentioned that the Avs played, I think, 49 players last year. Mixing and matching lines has always been Jared Bednar's strong suit. Even going back to the first year that I lived out here, that was the year where the team kind of went on a run playing 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. So that's kind of the situation that we're in right now, especially with Logan O'Connor being out from the, either the fourth line or the third line, wherever he's going to end up slotting in. So, I think the team's going to be really good. They looked fast. They looked physical. I was kind of surprised that Brent Burns didn't really get in on the physicality just because he's so big. But Manson obviously threw a really, really big hit and then won a fight, coming off of that. But his physical play didn't stop there. The Kings were trying to come after him and he wasn't having it. He continued to lay good hard hits. I mean, nothing flashy, but just made him pay for trying to come after him. So yeah, I mean, really, it's hard to say anything bad outside of that first period, which again, first period of the first game of the year. Obviously, there are going to be some jitters, some kinks to work out. But yeah, the team looked really good. They looked deep. I thought Makar and Wedgwood were probably the 2 best players in the game. Although, McKinnon was obviously really good as well. He created goals, made some good defensive plays as well. But yeah, this team looks good. I mean, the Kings did not look ready. They really didn't look like they were in the same class as Colorado. So that is a great, great sign. I'm going to wrap it up there. I'll be back at the end of the day for part 2. Bye-bye.